Hi, it's Ashley, and today I'm going to show you how you can take glitter iron-on and turn it into a super cute t-shirt. This is a great way to dress up inexpensive shirts, and it's really fun. I'm going to give you all the tips and tricks. Make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you don't miss out on any future videos, and let's get started. Let's take a look at the supplies you'll need for this project. It's a very simple project, so you don't need a ton of tools and supplies. You'll need to start out with your Cricut machine. I'm using the Maker for this example, but you can definitely use the Explorer 2 as well. Or you can use the Cricut Joy if you cut down the image into smaller sections. So just something to keep in mind. I always keep a pair of scissors handy and a weeding tool, just in case there's anything that I have difficulty weeding. I'm going to use a sheet of glitter iron-on. Super pretty. I'm also going to be using a t-shirt, so pick out a t-shirt that you like. The Cricut iron-on protective sheet. However, you can definitely use butcher paper or parchment paper as well. I'm also using an EasyPress mat. This is really handy for when you're doing a lot of iron-on projects. It's very sturdy. You can also use a towel as well if you don't have one. And you'll want an iron or the Cricut EasyPress. I'm using the Cricut EasyPress 2 in the 12x10 size. Links to all of this information will be below in the description box. They are affiliate links, but I also have a coupon code that gives you 10% off tools, accessories, and materials. So we're inside Cricut Design Space, and I'm going to walk you through this project from start to finish. What we're doing is, if you click on the link in the description box, it'll take you directly to this project so that you can make it just using the pre-made project. I'm going to click Customize so you guys can take a look at it. And I made two different versions. One says I run on coffee, glitter, and hot glue, and the other is I run on hot cocoa, glitter, and hot glue. I think this would be perfect to use a glitter iron-on with, so I'm going to create one of these. When you're ready, you can click on Make It. You can also exit out whichever piece you don't want to make, so it just depends on whatever your beverage of choice is for this one. So for this one, I'm just going to exit out on that, and I'll just make it like this. So we'll select Make It, and because we're working with iron-on vinyl or even working with glitter iron-on, what we need to do is mirror the image. So if you're on a mobile device, go to the top of the screen. It'll say mirror on or mirror off. Click on that. It'll bring up this little window here on the side. If you're on the desktop, it automatically does bring this up. We're going to click where it says mirror, which just means to reverse the image. So it'll cut it backwards so that we can use that and add it to our t-shirt. So we're ready to click continue. It will connect to our machine, and then we choose what we're using for materials. I'm going to be using glitter iron-on, so I'm going to search for glitter. So I'm going to select glitter iron-on and click done. And now we have to make sure that the mirror is turned on, which we know it is, and that the material is placed bonded side up. So what that means is the shiny side goes down towards the mat. I'll show you guys how that looks, and we'll make sure that we have the 5-point blade loaded in along with our materials. Let's start out by getting our project on the mat here. We're using the glitter iron-on. There are two sides to it. So there's a matte side and a shiny side. The shiny side has a clear protective sheet over the top that's kind of got a little bit of adhesive to keep it in place. So we're going to place this so it's shiny side down on the mat and it'll be matte side up. So I'm just going to place this on the mat. I'm using the green mat here because it has the right amount of adhesive for when you're working with something like vinyl. And because this is glitter iron-on, this is going to be a bit thicker because of the adhesive. So this is where I would definitely recommend making sure that this is adhered completely to the mat before you insert it into the machine. If you have a tool like a brayer tool, this is when it would come in handy. And here's a brayer tool if you're interested in one. I'll have the link below. But basically it's a roller, and you can use it to make sure that everything is attached to your mat. It gives you firm pressure across the whole mat that you're working on. So that's one reason I like to use it. You can definitely do this by hand too. You just need to make sure that you have no air bubbles and that this is adhered firmly. So we're going to load this by making sure that the sheet is under both sides of these tabs here, and that we have the 5-point blade installed. This is the blade that comes standard for all of your machines. So there's this little silver blade. It's the exact same in the Explorer 2, and in the Joy, it's a smaller version of this one. This is the blade that you use to cut most things like cardstock, vinyl, iron-on vinyl, all of that. So we'll go ahead and insert this into the machine by pressing this arrow button to load it in. The machine will turn blue here, indicating it's using Bluetooth to talk to whichever of your devices, and then it will start flashing the Cricut symbol, and when you're ready you can press the Cricut symbol. Okay, so it's finished cutting. We're going to unload it by pressing the arrow button. You unload your mat by turning your mat over so it's backwards here, and we're going to roll our mat from the project by holding onto our project and just rolling it away. This is how you unload basically every project from your mat, unless it's something like cardstock where you may want to use something like a spatula tool to help you out. You know, anything that's very fragile, you always have to be a little bit more careful. So we have our design here. There is a section that isn't cut because I'm using only this section of all of that. So we're going to cut away. This is where we're breaking out our scissors. We're going to cut away the section that we didn't use and save that for another project. So all of this can be saved and we'll get more use out of it later. Okay, we're going to work on weeding this design. So if you've never heard of weeding, weeding is the term that's used in the Cricut community for removing the excess material from your project. So if you're going to weed, it's just like gardening. We're just removing what we don't want from our garden, essentially. So when you're working with glitter iron-on, it can be a little tricky to actually see the design on this one. A lot of people will put a light source behind it, so that's a trick if it's a very intricate project that you're working on with glitter iron-on, is that you can definitely take a light and put it behind and it'll show you where the cuts are on this. Because it's daytime, I can just kind of use the light that's already in here to see it, and it's a pretty simple design. So we'll start from the corner here. A lot of people find glitter iron-on a little bit tricky. They're afraid of it because it's a thicker material. Don't be. I find it really fun to work with. It's one of my favorite materials. So we just take it from the corner. This side will be sticky, and this will be kind of like a thicker paper consistency. So we're just going to slowly work on separating this from our design. Glitter iron-on usually sticks onto the backing pretty well, so I don't usually find any problems with weeding this. You know, just go slowly. If you're doing something that has a lot of intricate features, that might be where you want to take your time and, you know, make sure that you break out your tools for that project. If you find that you're pulling up pieces of the design, just go back over it, press the design back down, and just keep the features that you want on the backing there. If you're working with your project and you're noticing you're having a lot of stuff to hold on to while you're working, you can always take the section and cut off the pieces as you're working if there's too much and it's starting to get in your way. This is also where you can break out your tool. If you're having any problems with your design coming up from there, you can press on where your design is. It will keep it in place and help you to remove the pieces around it. You can also use your tool to kind of sweep under the areas that you want to remove and help break it away from the design itself. So something like this, you can take your tool and go right underneath too if you're having any problems. Because I'm getting a lot of vinyl here, I'm just going to cut away some of the pieces so I don't have a bunch hanging out with me. This is an option too. You can always take your design and weed it on top of the mat so that you have the harder surface to work with. For me, I like the flexibility of being able to hold it independently, but some people really like having the sturdy surface to work off of, so that is always an option. Don't feel like you have to do everything the exact same way as everybody else. I would say pick what way works the best for you. We all have different dexterity and skills, and I'm actually super clumsy, so for me, usually it works better if I hold the item, but now that we have our design weeded, what we can do is go through and just work on the inside portions of where the letters are. So we'll just take our tool, and this is where I find it usually easier to move this in a way that you can kind of see the outlines. So you'll take your tool and then just scrape it right underneath where the little sections start, and that way you can remove those pieces. So it makes it a lot easier. If you have a little piece and it falls off directly onto your mat, make sure you always pick that up because you don't want anything extra on your mat. It will transfer to your shirt when you're using heat. So you always have to make sure any pieces you weed off, you get off of your mat that you're working on. I'm just going to flip this over to remove the sheet. Here's our completed design. You definitely can't see how glittery and sparkly this is, but it'll look really cool once we apply it. So this is the side with the adhesive, and this is the front side on it. Let's go ahead and figure out what temperature settings that we need to set our EasyPress for or iron for so that we're ready to go. If you're working with infusible ink or iron-on vinyl, this is vital. You definitely want to check out the Cricut heat guide. I'll leave a link in the description box below. I use this for every project I'm working on with iron-on or infusible ink. So when you go to the Cricut heat guide, it'll ask you which machine you're using. So I'm going to select EasyPress 2. If you're using an iron, just select the EasyPress 2 and it'll give you a temperature range as well. And you can select which heat transfer material you're using. So I'm going to be using the glitter iron-on here. So I'm going to select glitter. Select base material. So this goes through a whole range of different materials here. I'm using a 100% cotton t-shirt, so I'm going to select that. And then it asks us, are you using the EasyPress mat or the towel? So I'm going to be using an EasyPress mat. We'll click apply. It tells us that we're going to preheat our project for 5 seconds at 330 degrees Fahrenheit, and we're going to work on it for 30 seconds with light pressure. Then we'll flip and press it for 15 seconds with a cool peel. I'll walk you through all of those steps as well so you can see them in action. It also will tell you the supplies you need, how to prepare your project, how to apply it, and how to care for it. So if you're using a regular iron, this temperature section may not mean as much to you. Since you're going to be working with, say, 100% cotton shirt, you'll set your iron to the cotton setting, and just be careful because there's a lot of temperature variation between the iron across the whole plate. So if you're using a regular iron, it'll be a little bit harder. I definitely recommend using either a Teflon sheet, the Cricut iron-on protective sheet, or butcher or parchment paper between your design and the iron. That way you give it a little bit layer of protection, and it's not as likely to overheat that way. So let's go ahead, and we've already cut our design. Everything's ready to go. So we just need to apply this. Let's set our EasyPress to the correct temperature and get started. Before we apply our project, we have a few steps that we have to go through. So the first is to set the right temperature that we're working with. So we'll click the on button here. We're going to set the temperature to 330 degrees, so I'm going to select the temperature here and move it to the 330 degree setting. We're going to be working on our project for 30 seconds, so that we'll leave at the 30-second mark. We're going to let this heat up, and then we'll apply the tape to our decal. Cricut makes a heat-safe tape that you can use to keep your project in place while you're working. If you're working on an adult-sized shirt, for sure I would use something like a heat tape because it will keep it in place. It makes it a lot easier to get consistent results. And in case your iron moves or your EasyPress moves while you're applying it, this will make sure that you get the best result because this will not move. It'll keep it in the exact same spot. So we're going to go ahead and tape all sides of this with our heat protectant tape. And this is heat safe, so it shouldn't have any problems with transferring to our project. I'm just going to go ahead and tape down all the sides. Now our decal is all taped and ready, so I'm going to flip this over so the adhesive side stays up now. Sounds like my heat press is ready to go, which is awesome. Let's grab our EasyPress mat or your towel, whichever one you're using. Having a firm surface really helps to get the best results on this. So that's one reason I always recommend using something like the mat, just because it has a really nice sturdy foam. I'm going to take my t-shirt here. And when you're working with a t-shirt that's an adult size, a lot of times they tend to be oversized. And so because of that, it can be difficult to figure out the sizing. You know, you're looking at something like this and it might be wrinkled. You might be like, okay, where is the center on this? So there's a trick to finding the center. What you're going to do is fold your t-shirt in half. And we're going to first, once we get this folded in half, we're going to make a little line down here using our EasyPress. So I'm just smoothing this out. We'll take our EasyPress and I'm just going to press this in this section right down the center so we know exactly where the center is. I'm not going to keep this on for too long, maybe I'd say 5 seconds, just so that we get enough of a crease. And then we're going to let this cool down while we're working on it, so that way we're not heating this up over and over and interfering with our results. So what I'm going to do is center this now onto my mat. We're going to break out our lint roller, and this is a great time to use a lint roller whenever you're working on a project with iron-on vinyl or infusible ink. You'll want to break out a lint roller just to make sure that you have no lint on the areas that you're going to be working. Just gives you the best result that way. We'll make sure that our t-shirt is completely cooled down from when we creased it down the center. It feels cool, so we're ready to go there. What we're going to do before we even do anything else is look at our decal, take a look at where you want it to be. Remember that we have this line down here, so you want it down just a little bit from the top there, and we'll center that. So that'll give us, it should give us the right look for this. I'm going to make sure my shirt is as centered as possible. We've got kind of an idea how large this decal is. This is a pretty big decal. This is almost 12 inches all the way down. So it's like 11.5 inches long. So I shouldn't have to worry about the length or the width-wise of this. There'll be plenty of iron to cover all of that. But I'm going to have to be a little bit more careful since this is almost the exact same size as my iron. You really don't want to be applying a decal that's larger than your iron. If you are, then break it up into sections and only work on one section at a time. It's a great way to get the right result. If you're not sure if your iron is going to cover it completely, then you can always cut it in half or cut it in sections and work on that one section at a time. So it's just something to keep in mind. I'm going to be working with the 10 by 12 or the 12 by 10 iron, so I'll just make sure to turn it lengthwise so that it works in the same direction as this. Before we do anything with this, we need to make sure that we preheat it for 5 seconds, like it was asking on the instructions. So I'm going to take the EasyPress and I'm going to move this over to exactly where we were working, and I'm going to preheat this for 5 seconds. So we'll just count down. Okay, that's preheated. You can see the outline of where we were working as well. So I'm just going to place our decal right in here and make sure that we have it centered. And then we can press down the edges. You can always use your brayer tool because it is warm. You can use your brayer tool to make sure that it's adhered. Just be cautious whenever you're working with heat, of course. So we have that ready to go. This is where I would break out something like parchment paper or butcher paper or something over the top of this just to give you the best results. So I'm going to place this right on top. we're going to take our machine and we're going to make sure that we've placed this right along those sections. And then we're going to press the start button. We're using light pressure on this, so this isn't going to be something we press on with heavy pressure. We'll just give it the full 30 seconds with light pressure across it. Okay. This will be hot, so take the corner as far away as possible to do that. We're going to take our design, we're going to flip this over, and we're going to repeat this process on the backing for 15 seconds. So I'm just making sure this is centered so I know exactly where this is. I'm going to take my project and put it right back on top here, and I'm going to start the timer again. We're only going to let it count down halfway because we need to put this on for 15 seconds. Light pressure still, so don't put too much pressure. Okay. This is going to be a cool peel, so what we need to do now is leave this alone. We have to let this sit and do its thing before we touch it. So if it was a warm peel, what we would do is let this cool down a bit till it was warm to the touch and then remove it. But because this is a cool peel, we need to let this cool down completely. We'll just let it sit and then we'll come back to it. We're ready to remove our plastic sheeting from the decal. If you notice that it's not coming up when you're removing the sheet, you can always place this back down, give it half of the time that you were using before for heat again, and that should help seal it down. You don't want to cook it for the whole time again because it would just really overheat it and it would give you a bad result. So if you must put more heat on it, only do it half the time and the same amount of pressure. So let's remove this. Super cute. I love how glitter looks on shirts. It's so pretty. So hopefully you guys can see the glitter on this. That's one of my favorite parts of using glitter, is just look at how pretty it turns out. So nice. Okay, so I have a fun new holiday shirt to wear and I'm ready to go. If you guys haven't made a shirt before, make a shirt. Try it out. It's definitely super fun. If you want to see a specific type of shirt design, feel free to leave a comment in the comment section below. Let me know and I'll see if I can design something that will be fun for you guys. Or we can just like play around and make one together again in a live class like we did on last Saturday. If you guys want to see live classes as well, check out my Facebook group. The link is in the description box. On Saturdays in the afternoon, I teach live classes. This last weekend, I taught about using layered iron-on vinyl, so that's something to consider. If you want to learn more skills and you want to learn it live, that's a great option to do it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you would like more videos or videos that are similar to this, give a thumbs up and let me know, and your feedback on the videos helps determine what I'm creating. So I'm making these videos for you guys specifically, and I want to make sure it's something you guys enjoy. If you haven't yet, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any future content. I hope you guys are having a wonderful day, and I will see you later.